Space Shuttle, this is flight safety. Keep your hands on the handrail or inside the vehicle and remain seated while in motion. You are clear for launch. Have a great flight to Starport 75.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Chris. How are you?
I'm a little confused.
Why is that?
Well, right before the show, you said, look, you got to be on your best behavior today. And I nodded, but I'm not sure what that means. So why do I have to be on my best behavior? What's happening?
Well, it's because we have a special guest.
Oh, a guest? We've never had a guest.
We've never had a true guest.
After 74 shows?
This is number 74, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, tell us, who's our mystery guest? Is this like where the audience has to guess who our guest is? Or how does this work?
No. So we are graced by the presence of Sean Spansel.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Hey, Sean. Welcome.
Yeah, it's been good. So I'm the first guest, and this is my first podcast, so we will fumble through it together.
All right. Hey, no pressure, but if you don't do a good job, there'll never be another guest. So all future guests are depending on you to do well. All right. Well, how do we start this?
So
we're going to hear a little bit about Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to start, I found Sean through his photography post on Instagram, and actually, I'll tell you, Sean, I didn't even tell you. The one post that caught my eye was a photo of your camera bag with all the patches and everything on it. Because I had just done something similar. I had a shoulder bag, and I had put a ton of patches on it. I thought I was the only person that would do that, and I saw yours, and I'm like, oh my god! And so I started looking through, and I'm like, man, this guy is a very talented photographer. And
Well,
so
Glenn.
I started following you on Instagram and Flickr.
I'm sorry, Glenn,
yeah.
I got to call you out for this.
Okay.
This man has a mountain of amazing photography in his
I know.
portfolio, and you're saying how you discovered him was a photo of his bag.
Yes,
Did
I
I
know.
get that
That's
right?
why it's so weird, right?
It is a very cool bag.
Okay, yeah, I saw the shot. All right, just making sure I had that right. So, okay, cool.
So then I sent it over to Chris. I said, "Hey, Chris, look at this. I mean, look at these photos. They're incredible. We're photographers. We take a lot of photos, and I think as everybody does, we try to follow other photographers and Disney photographers to see what they're doing. Try to get some inspiration, tips, whatever. So anyway, so that's how I found Sean, and so I kind of reached out to him, commented on a couple of his posts, and then we started going back and forth, and asked him if he would be interested in joining us, and telling us and everybody else a little bit about him, and he graciously agreed to do that.
No, I appreciate it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I just wanted to kind of, because you did pass his portfolio on to me. The ones that really stuck out to me were you have some pictures of, I guess, your daughter, maybe some family member, some young person.
Just random children.
Just random child.
No, it is my daughter.
She's on Main Street. I think she's like lying down looking at a phone of the castle, and the castle's in the background, something like that. I'm not doing a very good job describing it, but maybe Glenn will link it later.
No, I love that photo. That's
and
a great
it's
photo.
just, it strikes me. I love that kind of thing because there are a billion photos of people taking kids in Disney World, and it is so hard to get something that is emotionally unique, and I just thought it was really excellent. So when Glenn said there was a chance we could get you on a chat, I'm like, yeah, fantastic. He knows what he's doing.
No, that's cool. Yeah, no, the shots of my daughter, she started going when she was 11 months old. We just got back from her 10th trip. She's 4.
Wow.
Oh my God. I don't think my kids have been that often, and they're 2 miles away.
I have a very patient wife and also patient daughter, so we get to hang out in the parks. I think that photo was probably taken around 1 o'clock in the morning, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
So either I'm the best dad or the worst dad for keeping my daughter there, but we're not.
Maybe
we're
a
not
little sad.
Maybe a little of both.
We're not road drop people, so we sleep in and we stay in the park late. So. But yeah, I kind of every trip I try to get a singular shot of her, either on Main Street or somewhere in the park that's just unique that you normally don't see. And that's just that was one of the latest ones, but it is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was probably at the top of your feed when I took a look. So you have an amazing portfolio of all kinds of work, but that one really stuck out at me.
Thank you.
On, so So where do you want to start, Glenn? Do we want a little background from Sean on how did he become one of the world's best Disney photographers? I'm sure people have said that to you before, so I'm sure that's not new.
No,
but,
it's the first.
You can now put that on your business card. So,
perfect.
So I guess a little background. How did this become a thing with you?
Let's see. So I started my Disney fandom back when I was a kid. My dad and parents used to take us like every 3 to 5 years. Then when I got to college, I did the college program back in 2003. I'm kind of aging myself, but but it was one of the best experiences I've had. And I think just living that Disney life for 9 months kind of just really instilled it inside of me. When I got back from that college program, I think I've been every year since. And now that I have a family, I have an excuse to go more than once a year. So I average like 2 to 3 trips a year. We're annual pass holders, so. But that's kind of where my Disney stuff started.
So I think we had some questions arranged, but I think the number one question now that needs to pop to the top is how the hell do you afford all those trips? Right? Is that inappropriate? We're always bitching about the cost of Disney. You don't have to answer that. It's just a running joke.
It's actually funny because I get the question all the time. Because we're annual pass holders, I kind of figured, well, not with the price hike lately, but before then it was about 10 days equaled, make our money back on the trip. Right. And we kind of stopped staying on property, which was a big money saver. And then we started driving. So, you can find some really decent hotels around the park for cheap. And I think we just did like a 9-day trip, and it was, under $500, $500 for hotels. So it can be had. I think, if you prioritize, saving money somewhere else to spend it elsewhere, I think you can do it on a budget and, not break the bank.
See, Glenn, that's a balanced attitude. What are you doing wrong that you're complaining these are so expensive?
Well, actually, we did that. We did something similar from 2017 to 2018. We got annual passes, and we timed it around Mardi Gras because we had a late Mardi Gras one year, and then we had an early Mardi Gras the next year, so we could fit in a trip in February, then in June, and then again in February for the next year from 2016 to 2017. And so we got the annual passes, and we spent like 15 days over the year there, and we stopped staying at on-site hotels. We actually rented a couple condos. But it was drastically cheaper to do that. And so I understand what you're saying. It's definitely, but we let the annual passes lapse. And it's simply because we, timing, we don't know if we can all get the same, times of year, off, because with the kids in school, it's frowned upon to take them out of school. So we're kind of limited to the Mardi Gras times and the summer times to head over to Disney World.
Yeah, it's true. Sean doesn't have that problem yet.
No, not right now. Yeah, I think with her being 4, we're still able to take her out whenever. So
right.
But we do the same thing. We do around Mardi Gras. She's been every time for her birthday. Nice. And she's at the age now where she's like, "Hey, Dad, it's my birthday." Like, well, we're not in Disney yet. So
that's right.
It was a couple weeks late this year, but
that's all right. It's close enough.
Pointing at the Disney calendar, going, "Dad."
That's right.
No, I joked this trip because she's at summer camp, and that week was Pony Week, and we're at Magic Kingdom walking around, and she kind of looked at me and was like, "Dad, it's Pony Day today." Like, she was upset that she was at Magic Kingdom. And that's when I was like, I think my child is Disney spoiled.
Yeah, that might be a good sign, but that's okay.
No, she likes it still, so we're good.
Yeah, awesome. So that's how you became a kind of a Disney fan, I get. Well, I don't know. That started with the college program, but you must have had some love for Disney before that brought you there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, we did so many trips as kids, and I think just the Disney movie, the 90s was the golden era of Disney movies. I think that's kind of everybody's favorite time. So yeah, you just get a bug in you, and I don't think I've gotten it out of my system. And now I have them tattooed on my arm, and it's just I think I'm kind of married to the mouse.
That's nice. I like that.
Awesome.
So that's the Disney part. So the photography part. What? Tell us a little bit about that.
So let's see. I got let's see. Back in the college program, I got one of those, point and shoot cameras. Always kind of just snapping photos here and there, just of anything. And then I got my first, quote unquote, real camera back in 2009, I believe. It was a D3000 Nikon. Started there and was a prime shooter at first. So I shot only primes. I focused by feet, which I always suggest for beginners to start on primes. I think it just kind of makes you grow as a photographer. And then I graduated to a D90 and then a D610, a D850, and now I am a Sony boy after 11 years of shooting Nikon, or 10 years shooting Nikon. So, but yeah, so I've been at it for a little bit. I think Photoshop's always been one of those programs that I've always played in prior to taking photos too. So I think that kind of helped me back then. And so here I am today on a podcast with you guys.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you graduated, as you, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like as you graduated in your abilities, you found you stepped up to the next level in equipment, right?
Yeah, I think, when I went from the D3000 to the D90, the D90 kind of just landed in my hands. I think my sister was one of those people that thought, hey, expensive camera, great photographer kind of thing. And her husband had bought her a D90, which is just, way overkill for what she really wanted to do with the camera. It's too big. And she was kind of like, well, you've been shooting for a few years. Here, do you want this? And I was like, of course I want that. So that was kind of my upgrade there. And that's when I got a taste of what a higher end camera can do. The D610 kind of, the jump to full frame really was, I don't know, want to say what they call gas, gear acquisition syndrome. I think it was just kind of like, ooh, I want full frame. And then you find out that full frame lenses are super expensive. And, it's not just the body. It's you're jumping up it's a whole different world up there. But what the full frame gave me was the ISO performance. I think that's what continued me to grow and want something different. And actually, going from the D850 to the A7 III could be considered, a step down from a camera because of megapixel size. But I think I got to the point now where I'm like, I don't need 47 megapixels. I'm tired of storing, come home from a trip with, 300 gigs worth of photos and raw, it's just it's a little much. But so I'm enjoying the smaller megapixels on this camera.
Yeah. So I'm sure we'll get into more gear stuff later, but I'm curious because my journey with Disney photography is a little bit backwards from yours and Glenn's, in that I was very much into photography before I really discovered Disney. So for me, it was, and I don't have the quality shots you do of the parks, but for me, it was a natural overlay on top of me enjoying my Disney trips was to exercise photography. But you guys kind of went this at the reverse route. So, what would I be asking? So how did you, obviously you had a love for it because you kept doing it, but how did you kind of hone your skill as you went? Did you study, photography? You must have obviously some concepts and foundations and things, but did you do other things to actively study? Did you, do any formal study? How did you improve from those early days? So
I've never had formal schooling for photography. I have a good friend of mine that's a photographer up in Arkansas, and he was actually my roommate in college program. So I think his kind of photography rubbed off on me when I was there. And so I leaned on him a lot for information, kind of what are these settings? The simple question of, hey, I'm here. Tell me a setting to start with kind of thing. And it's it doesn't work that way. And so, he kind of set that idea of, that exposure triangle. And then really the book that helped me, and I always tell people, is Understanding Exposure by Brian Peterson. Yeah. I think that's one of the best beginner books. And that one right there sets the foundation. And then from there, it was just YouTube videos and really just wanting to learn.
How about composition? That is one of the hardest things to both learn and teach because it's so subjective. But there are some kind of fundamental rules and stuff. Was there a period where, because that's one thing I noticed looking through your portfolio is that, obviously the tonalities are great and timing is great, but your composition is really, really good. So is that something that at any point you really focused on, or Is it just you just naturally gifted?
Wow. I'm just naturally
okay, well that's a valid answer.
No, I think composition is one of those things. I do believe that it's one of those things that can be taught, but it's very difficult. Yeah. But I do think it's also one of those things that some people just have and some people just pick up on it quicker. So I don't want to say, oh yeah, I'm gifted and whatever, but I do think that the composition part comes easy to me. I don't feel like I'm the worst. I tell people all the time when they ask to come shoot with me at the parks or whatever or meet me, I'm always like, I'm the most boring person to shoot with because, I'm a horrible teacher, but it's just kind of like one of those things where I've gotten to a point where I just do it and I don't know why I do it.
Yeah.
I just do it kind of thing. So, but yeah, I think, it can be learned, but it is one of the most difficult parts.
And it takes, no matter what, it still takes many, many years and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of frames of kind of, refining that. Unless, maybe every one of your shots is great that you take. I still take a lot that I throw away. So
they are not
practice.
But, okay.
You only show the good ones, right?
No, all mine are good. Those are the only ones I took.
Oh.
That's it. That's all.
I just take the lens and say they're mine is usually what I do.
Oh, please.
I think I saw his kids on your profile now.
Yeah, probably. That's right.
Probably. I lost my notes here.
Well, just real quick, part of that I mentioned earlier, composition is very important, and that's why I try to follow so many Disney photographers and on Instagram and Flickr and everywhere else I can, just to get ideas of what other people are doing and to figure out how I want to approach my next trip. Just seeing what others are doing, it's like, oh man, I've taken that shot of Big Thunder Mountain a million times, but I never thought about taking it from that angle or, from that spot or at that time of day or whatever. And so that really helps. And, I save them off, you can save on Instagram and fave on Flickr. And so I'll go before a trip, I'll go into those saves and look through them and say, oh yeah. And try to make, a mental list of some shots I want to get because composition is that important.
Yeah. The good thing with Florida too, is the skies are always fun. So you just never know. Cause I've been to California a few times and you get blessed with, clear sky, which you automatically blow out if you do anything.
Right.
And you may get a cloud or two, but usually they're very wispy and not very exciting. So the good thing with Florida is either like this last trip was, I think it rained 7 out of 9 times, about 9 days over there. So you'll see a lot of puddle shots coming out.
I was going to say that it makes really cool slick streets. So
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And, but I think the Florida sky really does lend itself to, you can reshoot a same shot over and over again and look totally different than the last time. So
yeah, very cool. Do you have a particular style that, you do have a style looking through your portfolio, and that's beyond composition. That is like the pinnacle of, what I think most photographers are aiming towards is, I got a million of them, is, is developing something that stands out. And you can really tell from your portfolio, they all are very cohesive and, stand out from the rest. So is that a style that you had sort of a conscious guide toward, or are you just kind of channeling your inner artist and that's how the stuff comes out?
That style is one of the things I struggle with the most, just because there are so many, and I think Instagram makes somebody want a style. Because when somebody looks at somebody's profile, they want to see something cohesive. It's pleasing to the eye. So I do think it forces us as photographers to kind of become stylistic. But yeah, I struggled with it early, and just, I guess recently, within the past couple of years, I feel like I found a color palette that I really like. And then, I work off presets, so that's why. Well, my presets, just to say, I did create my presets based off of some other ones, but the tonality of the photos that gives the cohesiveness comes from those presets. So I shoot with that in mind based off of some of the colors, but for the most part, I think, just to keep that palette the same, you're gonna get that total package. But yeah, I try to shoot all kinds of different styles. I think it's good to play. I think it's good to experiment with editing styles. No one says you have to have this style on Instagram. I think that's kind of ruined the vision of photographers too. You know, in a way, it made us grow, but also held us back. Because everyone's kind of comparing and, oh, I need to be like this person, or I want to be better than this one, or, you know, whatever. I think, you know, in a way that's the downfall of Instagram, but I do think it's brought a lot of us, you know, together as, you know, I've met a lot of friends through there. So,
yeah. Yeah, I have a love-hate with Instagram that leans more towards hate sometimes, but yeah, it does have some good sides for that. Just but which is surprising because I mean, obviously I'm into photography and stuff, but it just I don't know, it can get out of control.
Well, I think it messes with. I mean, I don't know if you guys are the same, but it does mess with people's mental states. I think because it becomes that competition. It's
I look at your pictures and I'm like, why do my pictures suck so much?
I
blame you.
Well, I appreciate that. Your pictures do not suck. But yeah, I think, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I think that Instagram's good and bad for all of us.
Yeah. So you mentioned your style. What are you using? Do you use Lightroom, Photoshop? What software do you use for post processing?
Microsoft Paint.
That's really good.
If I could see your face, that was that.
For a second, for a quick second, I went, "Wait a minute, that could be true." Thankfully,
he's really good. No, my status went higher at that point. No, so I do Lightroom and Photoshop. Most of my basic editing is done in Lightroom, but if I want to really manipulate an image or clean up some trash that the custodial people have not done, I'll go in there and kind of clean up some things in there. But for the most part, I think I'd say like 99% is, well, not 99, like 90% of my photos is Lightroom only.
Okay. And that's, you mentioned presets before. I assume you mean Lightroom presets, right?
Correct.
Kind of
yes.
Pre-assign settings and things, and you can recall them later, right? So you can get some consistency.
Yep. And I just had to recreate one for my Sony because the preset that I used to use for my D850, the color profile was totally different in that camera, so I wasn't happy. So I've been fighting with my edit. So hopefully it doesn't show too much in my post, but.
I mean, Chris, I'm sure you are too, but I'm going through that right now, switching to the Z6. Some of the presets I used to have, they don't look the same, you know, when applied to the photos from the Z6. So
I'm actually really a bad Lightroom user. I really don't use presets that much.
Really?
I know I should, but I kind of just jump into the pictures and then I'm like, I should probably save these, and I just I guess I'm lazy and I never do.
I was the same way. Once you figure, like, you know that when you get into a photo, hey, I'm going to do this, this, and this for the most part. Yeah. So if you can kind of take that step out of it and just have it import like that, or a one click just to get you a starting point. Yeah. I think the problem with presets and the people who sell presets, which that's another story, but
well, and those are two very different things, right? It's one thing to have your own presets based on, you know, your own visuals, but to kind of buy them out of the box is a
well, they never work. Yeah. So I mean, you know, my preset will not, you know, may not work for your photos. I think not just from different camera brands, but just the way you shoot, you expose. You know, it's very specific. I think the buying of presets, that goes back to that whole, if I buy a camera, I'm going to get good photos. People just have that feeling of, if I buy this preset, I'm going to look exactly like this person. And they get upset when they do it. They're like, I want my money back.
Yeah.
So Chris, I'm gonna ask something, and you're gonna smack me, but
oh dear.
But I just want to know. So do you tag your photos so that you can find them easier, or do you do any kind of labeling at all in Lightroom for organization?
I did not, but
yes, that is the correct answer.
2 trips ago, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go ahead and start doing like night photos, Epcot, Magic Kingdom, and I got like through one of my trips, and I was like, nope, I can't go and backlog these.
Sean, you're my kind of people, Sean. So Glenn not only has done that once with his $100,000 image library of Disney World, but through some technical snafu lost them and then went back and did them all again. So
I'm still in the process of doing them, and I do it down to the ride, the land. So it's like Pirates of the Caribbean, Adventureland, Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World, and then if it's at night, I put night shot, and I put if if my family's in it, I tag them. So yeah, I'm very detailed, and Chris thinks I'm insane. So I just wanted to, I just need to ask, and obviously I'm
two versus
in the
one,
minority, so
we win.
I am probably the worst when it comes to file management. It's always one of those things where I'm like, ooh, I'm going to fix this, and then I always never do. So I import my photos by date folder, and then when the trip is over, I will take every single date, throw it all into one singular folder, because I don't really want to know what day I did here. And then plus midnight kicks in and it goes to the next day. It's a mess. Mm-hmm. But so I put all my Disney photos into one folder for that trip, and then I will name it. Just, like right now, the easiest convention is what my daughter's name is and what number trip she's on. So that way I can kind of keep track of that. But yeah, I don't do the labeling thing.
Yeah, sounds smart. But I will say Glenn can find pictures pretty fast, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous at you because I search for photos all the time.
Don't be jealous. It's almost like a fool's errand at this point. It's
Glenn enjoys it though. Just give him your library and he'll do it all for you.
I actually just anyway. All right, moving
onward.
on.
Can we get in one thing, because I want to make sure I don't want to take up too much of Sean's time for nonsense. But
I am free.
I'm really curious, and I think Glenn would have the same question. I'm really curious of what your flow is, because like you said, you're a boring person to go shoot with. I think every photographer is kind of that way, because it is kind of a solitary kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So how does a typical day or shoot, or however you want to label it, in a park go for you, especially when you have family with you? And what I find difficult for me is that I'm binary, that I'm either in photography mode or I'm completely out of it. I do not do very good of, being the tour guide for the family and taking good shots at the same time. Or conversely, if I'm in photography mode, then it's like nobody else exists. So how do you, how do you get in kind of that flow of shooting? Is it just you be bopping around the parks and you're like, hey, here's a good shot? Or is it like you going off on your own? Or how do you kind of do that?
So I always approach my trips with vacation first, shoot second. So I while I get a bunch of shots while I'm there, my first goal is always that fun, enjoy my family, enjoy Disney for what it is. Yeah, sure. And then shoot as I see things. Like I have my set times where I'm like, oh, I need to go fireworks. So family, y'all go ride Dumbo. I'm going to go set up on Main Street, an hour or two before and just kind of sit. And then, but for the most part, like I rarely shoot during the day, just because, I'm shooting more in the day lately, but
it's the worst time to take. I mean, it's hardest to there's just so much competing for space, right?
Yeah, there's so many people. There's so many people that you do, but I don't mind people in my shot. I think I'm one of those photographers that embraces the idea that it is a theme park and it's not something that's just superficial and empty all the time. I think people do add to a shot, but for the most part, I'm with they stay with me the whole time. Mm-hmm. So I actually have a photo of me shooting Festival Fantasy in 900-degree weather with my 4-year-old on my shoulder. I have a 70-200, shooting the parade with a 4-year-old on my shoulder. So, that's awesome. I think I should get points for that, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
And then the nighttime comes. Once the sun goes down, that's when, I won't shoot anything until after the park closes and we're just kind of hanging out. Then, at that point, everything's closed. My wife and daughter will go. They'll go in the stores or do whatever while I kind of mosey around with my tripod and get some shots. Or they'll stay with me or sit on their phone and watch YouTube while Dad does his 2:00 in the morning shots.
So, Glenn, we just have the wrong families. This is the problem.
That's what it sounds like.
Ours are too impatient.
That is what it sounds like.
She's patient with me, but I don't know if she likes it all the time, but I don't know if there's a choice. I think I got a couple days and a couple nights. We need to really do this. So
yeah, and you get some fantastic family shots that I'm sure through the years she'll really appreciate.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned tripod, which was going to be one of my questions. I saw obviously for shooting at night, then those shutter speeds start to get low, but they were kind of just kind of quickly looking through Flickr, they're kind of at a borderline. They could have been handheld or could have been tripod. So based on what you said, you'd run around with the tripod.
So for the family and daughter shots, those are handheld for the most part, with just high ISO. Mm-hmm. But for my clear park shots, they're all on tripod. Lately, I've been leaving the tripod at home, I bought a platypod. I don't know if you've ever heard of those before, but it's a
Oh, yeah, I did.
it's a flat piece of metal,
Yeah.
and there's a screw mount on it to where you can put a tripod ball head on it, and that right there you can put on top of a trash can. You can put it on a railing, something that you don't have to have that heavy tripod. I think I shot maybe 1 or 2 nights with a tripod this trip, but everything else was on either laying my camera on the ground or
What's that thing called? I want to look at it while we're chatting about it.
It's called a platypod, platypod.
Platypod. All right, this is going to cost me money.
Did you do you ever get going through security? Do you ever get hassled by at Disney?
Security, right?
Yeah, security at Disney. Bag check. Do they ever? They don't ever give you any hassle of taking in a tripod or big lenses or anything like that?
No, I think it depends on your tripod size. I travel with a Mi Photo road trip, so it's I think it folds down to 15 inches, which fits just right on the side of my bag, and I haven't had any problems with it. Usually they kind of laugh and go, "Okay, another camera guy coming through."
I was setting up in Tomorrowland one time, and a security guard came over, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm gonna get hassled." But he actually was like looking at the camera, like, "Oh, what are you shooting?" But I've seen horror stories from others online, saying that security hassled me about the tripod or bringing in the camera gear and everything else. And it seemed like for a small while, not recently, but let's say a few years ago, like Disney was kind of cracking down on the photo equipment, and they were not letting people take in lenses over a certain length. But I think honestly, and Chris and I have been talking about this. We actually talked about it during the last podcast about Instagram. The popularity of Instagram and all the influencers and everybody on there promoting Disney. It's free promotion for them. So I think they're welcoming everything.
Yeah, it's like free professional photography for them, right?
Yeah.
The better those shots are. So
yeah.
Yeah, we used to get a hassle for tripods and stuff, especially.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been lucky. I think they haven't messed with me at all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Good. Well, they see Glenn and I, and they're like,
yeah, these crazy guys. All right. So here's the big question. All right.
Oh dear.
So what equipment do you use? So what are you shooting now? I know, in going back and forth, chatting, that you just made a switch. So how did that go? What are you shooting, and how do you like it?
So I will start with what I did shoot just prior to the switch, because that's I had more of a lens lineup then. I feel like I have nothing now. So I shot with a D850, which is a full frame body. I would travel with all my lenses, but then leave some at the hotel room if need be.
Yeah.
So my lens lineup for the Nikon was 50 millimeter 1.8, the 12 millimeter Rokinon fisheye, which kind of has been one of my favorite lenses to shoot with. Mm-hmm. The 70-200, which is a beast of a lens to carry around all day, but for the shots, I feel like they're worth it. And then what else did I have? I think that's really it's all I really shot with. I didn't really have too many. I don't really own too many. Oh, I have a 24-1.4. That was the other lens that I shot with. Yeah. And that kind of was my my walk around lens.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I had a Sigma 35 1.4. Mm-hmm. That was my walk around, but I don't know if I got a bad copy or I bought a used copy. It never did play well with my camera. So I sold that one and went with the 24 Nikon 1.4, and I was really happy with it. I think it is a little wide for the family portrait stuff, but yeah. I made it work. And then now, so currently, I switched to an A7 III, which is also full frame, mirrorless, and I have the Tamron 28-75 2.8, which I've never owned a mid-range zoom before, so this is the first mid-range that I've had, and I enjoyed it. I traveled with that lens and my fisheye with an adapter on this last trip, and I had the 70-200, but it never came out with me, and because it's manual focus on the Sony, and I just your Nikon 70-200. Okay. Yeah, and I just didn't feel like dealing with manual focus, even though it does make it easier, with the focus peaking of the A7 III. But no, I got every shot that I felt like I got 99% of the shots that I would really want with the mid-range zoom. So I think moving forward, I would probably my lens lineup's going to grow, I'm sure, as I sell off things and start replacing them. But I would like another fast prime to go with. I think those are always good, and then a wide angle. I think just a straight wide, so that way I'm not fisheyeing everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm surprised that you didn't have a wide, like the 14 to 30 equivalent for the Nikon.
Well, that was my plan. That was my next lens, and then to be honest, I don't know what happened. I think Sony's always been that thing in the side that you're like, ooh, like the new girl, you know what I mean? Like, and it's always, and when I bought my D850, the Sony was that thing also, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make the right monetary decision. I'm gonna stay with what I bought, and I stayed Nikon, but it still always was on my shoulder, like, hey, Sony. So I made the switch. Funny story about that, and people call me crazy for it, but I ordered the A7 III a couple days prior to my last trip. And
I've done that.
And it came in Wednesday. I drove out Thursday, and I left all my Nikon stuff at home and brought just the Sony, just to learn by fire. So it took me about a day to a day and a half to get used to like the electronic viewfinder, and the button setup. Mm-hmm. But I went back and held my Nikon when I got home after 9 days with it, and I'm like, this thing is humongous, and I don't know where the buttons are. I felt like I hadn't shot that camera for 11 years before. It was like, it's crazy. But no, learn by fire.
Yeah. So how long have you been shooting Sony?
2 weeks.
I mean, before this last trip. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Like I literally it just came in. This is all brand new to me. So
okay, gotcha. All right.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. And what was your primary motivation for this? I mean, I get that it was like, hey, what's going on there? It's a different world. But was it because of the gear size? Because it's a mirrorless versus the 850, which is a full frame DSLR, which makes it pretty big, right? Was it primarily size, or what was your motivation?
So I kind of developed, aging myself again, developed like a back problem. So I think carrying the heavy gear in the park, I was like, that was kind of motivation. But I think Sony eye autofocus was the biggest thing for me, especially for shooting with my daughter. She, 4-year-olds don't really stay very still.
No, they don't. No.
And I waited for the Z6, Z7 eye autofocus update to make my decision, just to see if they had matched what the A7 III does now. And I think they've gotten it close.
Not quite there. But,
no, definitely not.
But I think I bought, I bought from what is currently there, not for what I think Nikon's going to do. So I made the switch. And it also gives me a good opportunity to rebuild my lens lineup, which I wasn't overly happy with before. So now I kind of start fresh again.
So, what will you change then? Because it sounded like that was a pretty good lens lineup. What were you missing, or what would you want to do differently?
So I think I want a portrait prime in this one,
like an 85.
Like an 85. Actually, I'm kind of looking at that 105, 135 now.
Okay.
And maybe that would replace my 70 to 200, just because I feel like I rarely shot at 200. It was more in that 150, 135ish range. I felt. And, contrary to popular belief, I do shoot other things besides Disney.
Well, I was going to ask about that, because you do on your Flickr. I did notice some others, but that's seems like the majority of your portfolio is Disney.
Yeah, that's the thing that gets the likes and the follows. But I have sure. I do portrait photography on the side just for fun.
Yeah, well, I started pepper you with questions, but I was going to ask you that as well. Is what if this is just a hobby, or do you do any of this professionally? Not necessarily Disney side, but just photography, or is it?
It's not professional. Okay. I would say I'm a hobbyist that kind of makes some little money on the side, but most of the time I don't really try. I think the last 4 photo shoots I've done have been for nothing. I just do them just because. I know the people at home can't see, but I do have a large softbox behind me. I do a lot of off-camera flash work, so I like product photography. I like portrait. I think portrait's different. I think landscape is fun. You can do it by yourself, but I think portrait takes a personality. I think it's
That's definitely a different skill. I mean, a skill set. It definitely is. It's not in my wheelhouse. But it's anybody who is a portrait photographer, like I respect them, because that's definitely a unique skill, because you're dealing with a person, and trying to direct them and trying to make sure that they look good, and if let's say you are getting paid for it, you need to make sure that it's right, and it's not just if I didn't get the castle shot, no big deal, but this person's relying on these photos.
Right, and that's why I will not do weddings. I think that's where I draw the line. I don't think I don't want to turn my hobby into something that's a job. I think that's another big thing of mine. So I'll do some landscapes, I'll do some hotel shoots, I'll do whatever. But for the most part, I draw the line at engagements as far as I go, and then you're on your own if you're actually going to get married.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you have shot lists in mind? Like, do you have before you go on a trip? Do you have to kind of pre-plan any? I'm going to guess you probably say it's a mixture of some things, but what or is it completely just as you kind of feel it and see it, or what? How do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, I've never approached a trip with a shot list. I'm kind of one of the ones where once I get rolling, like I feel like the first 2 days of my trip, I'm like, oh, here's a Mickey balloon, here's this, like, like it's the very basic things, and then I start getting into a groove, I think. So the days always start that way. I can always tell my day shots. I'm like, oh, like here's another reflection on a Main Street window.
Oh, man, I used to be proud of my balloon shots. Now you
I actually made a comment this afternoon on Instagram. I said I will always like a Mickey balloon shot, just because I do feel that I have a ton of them. You should wait till you see them.
Side note on that, I was at the park a couple weekends ago, and I happened to notice there was a woman holding the entire thing of balloons. I don't know what the proper name for that, a bushel of balloons, whatever that would be. And the cast member was like holding the end of the string, just looking like, when will these people go? Because the woman holding it, they were clearly doing some sort of Instagram, she was having her friend take her picture like she was floating away with the whole balloons. And it's just like, everything seems so, everybody's staging their photos now at Disney World, which is a little disheartening. But I'm like, you know what? No more photo shots or balloon shots. That's it. I'm done.
I say always take Mickey balloon shots. They're fantastic.
Yeah, all right.
Keep doing it.
Since you said so, Sean.
I will like them.
All right. Hey, I have one like on my balloon shot.
There you go.
All right. So if you don't have a shot list, are there? And I think Glenn and I both had this question, but if it's okay, I'll ask it. Yeah. Is there any shot you've imagined that you've attempted and haven't been able to do yet? And if you don't want to share because it's a unique idea that you don't want others to hear, that's fine too. You can talk about it in code, but I mean, is there an Everest shot, so to speak, that you haven't been able to climb yet?
I saw that question on the list, and it's been one of the ones that I've been thinking about since. I think all the other ones I had answers. I don't really particularly have I don't really have a particular shot. I think the shot that I really would love is to shoot the inside of Cinderella Castle Suite, just because it hasn't been really. I mean, it's been shot before. I think there's a couple photographers that have had the ability to go in there, but I think that's just because I could shoot, just say I was there kind of thing, except for the shots. Right. But yeah, I don't really have So
is that still there? That suite? I haven't heard much about that in.
I don't even know if they're using it.
Yeah, it's there. It's being used, but it's for like VIPs, and it's not really publicized. But if you if you have the money, you can stay there.
Well, that's
so I will not stay there.
They used to do that thing where you could win a night stay there, right? Just some random park person would be able to stay. So.
Yep.
But I think the one shot that the Everest of shots, as you would say, the shots that I struggle with the most, that you don't get many opportunities, I think, as a non-local, is the special night event parties.
Oh yeah.
To where when I go, I'm paying to have a good time. To where the last couple of parties, I don't bring a tripod. I don't do the photo thing just because I'm there to spend good money. I don't want to just walk around with a camera. It's different than what normal Disney's like. And I think the night parades are the ones that I think are some of the shots that I'm like, if I had more opportunities to shoot those, I think I would, do a little better with them. But I always come back with a bunch of blurry night photos.
Yeah, been there.
I wanted to pose that same question that y'all posed to me. What is y'all's Everest of shots. What's a shot that you guys would always want to get?
When I look at people like your portfolio, pretty much any of those would have been happy with. Man, he's not supposed to do this. So
no, I know.
This is your show. You answer first.
Was I supposed to tell y'all I was going to do this? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is not appropriate.
Well, I tell you what. So I'll tell you a shot that I had always wanted to get, and that I pretty much got. So a few years ago, when the Main Street Electrical Parade was still running, I had gotten there was, and you probably know it, but there used to be a postcard of the main train float passing Cinderella Castle, right? And it was literally a postcard, and I always loved that one. So I'm like, man, if I could ever be in a position to replicate that or do that, I would love to do that. And so a few years ago, they offered fast passes for the Main Street Electrical Parade viewing right there in the hub, right across from Cinderella Castle. And so I used one of my fast passes for the family. And so we went, and I did not have a tripod, but I got the shot of, because nobody could be in front of us. So I was there in the spot where I needed to be, and I was just waiting for it, and I just held down on the shutter. I'm like, please, Lord, just let one of these come out. And one of them came out. The only problem is Minnie's kind of looking at me. Mickey's looking toward our way. The only issue that kills me is that Goofy is looking the other way towards the castle. But other than that, the smoke's coming out of the stack and everything, and when I got home and I looked there, I'm like, I cannot believe I got this one shot. So yeah, that's kind of my only 5-star shot that I have, that I had always wanted to get, that I actually got.
So I'm gonna jump in. The Main Street Electrical Parade brought up a good topic. So like when Main Street went back to Disneyland last time.
Yeah.
I was like, I am going to shoot, even though I'm so tired of Main Street Electrical Parade, I was like, I'm going to shoot that parade in its home park. I went out there for a solo photo trip, like within a few weeks of it opening up over there. Got my shots. I hardly ever post them just because they just don't do well on Instagram, night Main Street shots. But I did get the shot of the coming down Main Street with the smoke out the stack with the little castle behind it. And I was all excited, and now they just announced that it's coming back again. I'm like, well.
I know.
They got me this time.
That's all right. That's cool that you got that shot.
So I'm sorry. So you want to continue on?
Oh, no. Well, Chris, you didn't answer. You have to answer.
I was hoping that would get
No.
forgotten. All right. So mine's a little bit of a cop-out, but the thing, and it's so hard for me to explain this to people, one of the things I love most about Disney World especially, is not so much the onstage stuff. I am always fascinated by how they run the park and the resorts, etc. So, if and it's not a single shot, but if I could ever get like backstage access for like a day to do like a photojournalist covering how they run the park, through the utilidors and the people doing ride maintenance, maybe overnight as they once the park's closed and they're running it. That's the kind of stuff I would love to shoot, is how the people run that park. So a little bit of a cop out, not a single shot, but that's, if there was anything that was like what I would love to be able to go shoot, it would be that kind of stuff.
I will say backstage, being that I had worked there before, not so exciting. You know what I mean?
That's the challenge. Well, that's the challenge.
Yeah. I mean, like the utilidor underneath.
And it may just be that, from mine, and because I really do struggle with, there's so many, and it really kills my enthusiasm. And this is my own limitation. It's not, I don't mean to have anybody else adopt this attitude, but it really kills my enthusiasm when I see so many good shots of the park, of a place that I've been taking pictures of for decades, literally. And it's like, well, it's a little bit disheartening. So to have a different kind of vantage point, to kind of see it from the other side of that coin, even if it's not that exciting, but to see the kind of operations that kind of run that thing, and whoever's backstage destroying the monorails, I want to get their shot. Anyway, so that's because I can't think of a good like onstage. I don't have an ever shot that I've really gone for. For me, it's more the portfolio aspect of it. I would just like to get a more consistent style out of it. But anyway, there you go. It's my weak answer, but that's true.
I liked it.
So, Glenn, what was your question? I forgot it too.
Just how do you take images that aren't the run of the mill image? How do you, because looking through your what you posted on Instagram and Flickr, you have some pretty unique shots. So how do you do that, and how do you think differently to take those shots?
I get asked that actually more often than not. I always tell people that when the craziest thing that I always hear is, "Oh, Disney's been shot 1,000,000 times. There's no unique shots left."
I think I just said that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think I think it goes back to what we were talking about with Chris with composition earlier. I think just the way you see things, just to change the vantage point. I think so many people shoot from eye level.
Mm-hmm.
To where when you shoot something from eye level, you're going to get what you see, what I see. It doesn't stand out. You can edit it, make it look pretty, but I think, if you get higher than what your perspective is or get lower than what your normal daily perspective is, I think it changes that look. I see. Well, I feel like I shoot low a lot. I kind of get called out for it all the time, but I shoot low and I shoot.
Who's calling you out for that?
Oh,
like people on Instagram, they like, oh, another low shot. Like, who's calling you out?
Well, I think I posted, not like call me out like negatively, but
I see.
It's like, shooting low again. It's
part of your style, though, right? It builds your style.
Low and fisheye is kind of my thing. I think the fisheye brings a different perspective to the parks. Also,
must be a New Orleans thing because Glenn loves that as well.
I do,
but I feel like now, there were a few major big time Disney photographers that shot fisheye. Tom Bricker, Matthew Cooper. They shot fisheye way before I even got one, but they were always inspirational to me. So when I got one, they had already kind of gotten tired of the fisheye, so I kind of came onto the scene and became, the fisheye photographer of Disney. And then now I feel like, you see fisheye more often than not. So I try to not overuse that lens when I'm in the parks now, but. Every once in a while something strikes me and I'm like, ooh, like let's test this out and see if the fisheye works on it. Because it doesn't work on everything. The fisheye is one of those things where like, same thing. I buy the camera, I'm going to get the shot. Fisheye is very, it's not as easy as people think it is, I think. I think you have to work with your curves of the environment to make it, Spaceship Earth's one of the perfect things to shoot with fisheye. I think that's the easiest one.
For sure.
But yeah, when you work with curves and arches and stuff like that with a fisheye, it does bring a different look to a normal vantage point to most people. So, but yeah, I think it goes back to the whole like I just shoot what I see, and I guess maybe I get lucky.
Well, sometimes that's all that matters.
Yeah, no kidding.
But I do go. I go to every trip. I try to at least come back with one or two unique shots, and I feel like I got a few this trip that a castle shot. I've seen 1,000,000 times. I feel like I found this one while I was eating, and I was sitting and like eating my corn dog nuggets. I'm like, hey, I've never seen this before, and brought my camera out while I was mid-eating and took my shot and finished eating.
See, I'm just usually complaining there aren't enough fries, but that's where I'm doing it wrong. So your trips, we didn't have this in our questions, but your trips, you've been to Disney World, obviously a number of times. You've been to Disneyland. Have you been to any of the other Disney parks around the world?
I have been to Disneyland Paris.
Yeah.
That was not a planned trip to Disneyland Paris. We just happened to be there for a family trip, and I was like, I'm here. I'm 45 minutes away. I'm going to go see the parks. No one else is going to go. So my wife at the time, still same wife, we decided to skip out on I think it was Napoleon Bonaparte's grave and go to Disneyland Paris. I think it was a little bit more exciting. But yeah, we jumped on a train.
That's a good trade. I was going to say that. Yeah.
So we didn't stay like at the resort. We didn't do any of that. I had my D90 at the time. I don't even think I had a tripod. So my shots from that park are terrible.
No, I disagree. I was just was looking at one earlier. I said I think that is the castle from Paris, I thought it was good. So
yeah, I wish I had more night shots. That's my thing. But it rained that night. It was kind of one of those things. It was an interesting trip. We spent like a half a day there. I spent way too much money for 6 hours there probably, but it was worth it.
You've been there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Tokyo's next, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd love to get. Those are my Everest shots, the ones from the other parks that I haven't been to yet. So that's.
I retract my other statement. Tokyo is my Everest photos.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
All right, hey, let's go. Let's all go.
Yeah,
all three of us. Let's go.
All right. I lost track of who's asking questions, Glenn.
All right, well, I'll go.
Round it out.
Sure. So you mentioned Tom Bricker and Matthew Cooper. I have been following them for a long time. Chris will tell you that I bug him about Tom Bricker's photos way too much and have been for years, since WW Magic, since he was, on there and he was starting photography, and kind of followed him and his progression, and he ramped up pretty quickly, a lot quicker than I did. But so I've been following them for a while. But who else do you follow? Do you go to the parks with? Who inspires you, or who do you work with?
So I have a couple photographers I meet up with when I go to the parks. Imaginography 71, Matt.
Oh yeah,
he's actually another really good, talented photographer. Judd Helms, which I believe Judd, he's kind of like he's like the master Epcot photographer. I feel like I think he always nails his spaceship Earth shots. And who is Cliff Wang?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, I remember. Okay.
Yep. So I've actually met Cliff, met Matt. Matt's a local, so whenever we're there, he always comes out and sees the family. And cool. I actually just got the opportunity to meet Tom this past trip. So.
Did you really?
That was kind of like my, we had been,
and you guys didn't call me? What the hell?
Yeah. No, I was posting my Instagram stories from Epcot, and his wife, super sweet person. She, her and I, because Tom's not the social media kind of person, so his wife kind of covers that side, I think. But for the last couple of trips out to Disneyland, I've tried to meet up with him. When I was posting Instagram stories in Epcot, his wife reached out and was like, "Hey, are you still in Epcot? We're here." And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty cool." So she reached out. We kind of met up in Mexico, kind of talked for a quick, 20, 30 minutes, and, said our goodbyes. But it was really cool. Very, very awesome to meet. Kind of like that was my fangirl moment. So.
I would be the same way. So
but very. Yeah, I tried to contain myself. I think I did okay.
That's so funny.
I saw you also went out with Doug Does Disney.
Yeah, that was another random. We just happened to be in Epcot same night. It was when they had removed those Leave a Legacy, which I do apologize. I heard you've been removed.
Yeah.
Word on the street is that Glenn is gone.
That's right.
But but they had just removed them, so it was my second to last night in Disney, and I was like, I need, for my photos, I was like, we need to go there. We'll skip something and go there instead. And just so happened that he was there also. We met up, kind of walked World Showcase together, and just kind of shot the bull while we did some shots, and it was really cool. Very, very. He's an amazing videographer. I don't know if he's got a YouTube channel that they do a lot of fun stuff, and his photography too. So he's big into the Photoshop lately. So we kind of talked about that a lot. Just he's kind of created his own niche. He's separated himself from the Disney photography group. I think he's different than what we're doing these days. So that's always good for him.
Yeah, because I do. I found him on YouTube, and so I follow his channel. I watch his videos and stuff, and I see his stuff on Flickr and Instagram, and it's definitely unique, and I do see what he's doing, where it's more fantasy. If it's not just the photography; it is a lot about the Photoshop, which and it's cool to look at. So that's awesome if he's trying something different.
It's working for him. I think he's up to something, a couple 20,000, 20,000 followers.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
I know. Well, not yet. You're on your way though, man.
I've always said, I want to get that K behind my number. The K, once the K happens, I'll be satisfied. Of course, check back when I get a K, I probably won't be satisfied, but but it's always fun.
I'm just trying to get a comma.
Yeah, it always blows my mind when to me, I'm like, oh, like, I have this many 1,000 followers, whatever. And somebody's like, you have that many? Like, that's crazy. And when you think about it, it's crazy to find that there's so many people that are still, interested in something that you do just for fun, on vacation. So it's pretty cool.
Well, were you doing the other one, Glenn?
No,
Shall I
go
take
ahead.
it?
You go ahead.
All right. So, I mean, I guess this is a good, maybe a good question, kind of round it out. Is so if somebody's new and they're you back in 2003, but they've got their new mirrorless gear or whatever, what tips would you give them starting out? They want to go take great park shots too. What advice do you give?
I would probably start with that. I always start with that book, that Understanding Exposure, and that tripod. I think a lot of people feel that these shots that we take, at the parks, we just hand hold them and shoot them and done. But I think a tripod's a huge step up once you kind of want to step up that night game photography. Really, I guess just kind of do what I did. I think if you really want to learn photography, you have to put the work in. It's not just gonna just fall in your lap and do it. I think the more you shoot, the better you'll, once you know your camera. If you can know your camera like the back of your hand, I think that's when you start really excelling. Also, take it off auto mode. Don't go straight to manual. Shoot aperture priority. I think shoot aperture priority. Find what you want to shoot. And I will admit I'm an aperture, priority shooter for, if it's daytime, I'm shooting aperture priority probably 90% of the time, unless I want to do something.
That's interesting.
If I want to do something, with a backlit or something like that, that's special. But Doug and I actually had this conversation while we're walking around about manual versus aperture priority versus shutter priority. And it's like, photographers will frown upon people who shoot aperture or whatever. And it's like, oh, you don't know a camera.
Yeah, that's silly though. It's just changing. I mean, there's just a few aspects to change, right? So I shoot aperture priority mostly too, but I thought for me, it's just when I grew up with photography, that was like the most automated cameras would be because I'm ancient. So, like my Nikon F3, that was kind of the most automatic mode you could put it in. But I find I shoot manual a lot more these days because of auto ISO. So once I set the kind of boundaries and let it float between the different ISOs, and I can control exactly between, just balance shutter speed and aperture and let the ISO balance it out. But
and that's one thing I don't. That's one thing I want auto is auto ISO.
Oh, you don't at all?
I don't do auto ISO. That's the only thing I want auto, and I don't know why. Today's cameras, I think, I try to keep my ISO as low as possible. So. But the conversation is if you're shooting manual and you're exposing it perfect in the camera, like putting the triangle in between the zeros,
right.
You're doing exactly what the camera and aperture priority is going to do for you. So, if you come in with I want this certain depth of field, right. You're going to change your aperture, and at that point, your ISO is already set. You're going to set your shutter. You're just making it even. So, what's the point of wasting those precious seconds when you could have just shot at aperture priority and been fine. So
that's good advice.
But yeah, so I and I shoot manual for my night stuff is manual and my fireworks are manual. But for the most part, I mean, if I'm just running and gunning, I shoot aperture priority.
That makes sense. That's where mine sits most of the time too. Yeah. So yeah. What do you do, Glenn? I don't
aperture priority most of the time, but yeah, I've been I started with my old camera, but on my last Disney trip, going into manual a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But with my Z6, I have been doing manual because I've been in a lot of low light situations with plays at the school and stuff, taking doing some spot metering and making sure that I can get the shot, freeze it. So it's I'm starting to venture into manual, but it's aperture priority 99% of the time.
Yeah, what kicked me mostly into manual was my kids. Once I had kids and I'm like running around with them, then I had it because I used to do aperture priority and let the shutter speeds go pretty low, but I have to kind of set a baseline for those. So that's
right.
Yeah.
So that's another one. I go manual when I shoot my daughter.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially when the sun's going down.
I've just kind of settled into that, so I just know I'm either gonna do high or low shutter speeds.
And I think the thing that separates a lot of photographers too is the post editing.
Yeah, well, and that really is where it is today, right? I mean, that is more than half of the art right now is what you do after you do the capture.
Right. You know, like I take a shot with something in mind for my post editing skills. So skills. That sounded pretentious, but
you should have said my artistry for my post processing artistry.
I apologize for that, but like when I take a photo, I'm always like, even though I don't pre-plan a shot, I'm always thinking of how I'll edit it afterwards. Yeah. I think so, but yeah, I think the editing is what separates a lot of If you look at my raw files, I think you'd probably be unimpressed. But
true for
all.
It's
the same. Yeah, it's the same for all of us.
Yeah. But yeah, shoot raw. Don't shoot JPEG.
Yeah. And definitely shoot raw. That's a point we will judge on.
And I do notice that you're not posting your whole trip. You're being very selective in what you post, and you're posting on a regular basis. That's tough for me because I can't wait. I want to get them all out there after I'm done doing it. I can't keep up with the schedule after. You're obviously doing that on purpose to try to keep a consistent flow to your social media accounts, right?
Yeah, you have your Spaceship Earth Sundays, your Life Tuesdays. Yeah, no, I joke, but I try to keep it themed just so that way I know what I'm going to post. If not, it'd be castle.
Right.
You got to separate a little bit, but I think that's the hard part. I think of Instagram is because what I used to do is I used to edit all my photos. I'd post them on my personal Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And then I would pick and choose what I'm doing. So now what I do is I don't do that. So none of my family ever sees my photos. They used to see all the cool photos. Now that I edit one photo a day for the most part, it's like
that's funny.
I try to keep it to where I'm not editing multiple photos. I'm excited too, but I try to, I come home from work, I'll come and edit a photo really quick, which my edits take. I hear people saying they spend hours on a photo. I'm like 10 to 20 minutes maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If that, I think I've gotten it down to a point where I know what I'm going to do for a photo or how I want, I know what slider is going to do what. So it makes it pretty quick. But yeah, I do I'll edit one post a day and then just post it. But I'd be the same way. If I edit them all, I'm going to post them all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's dedication though, to actually set time aside and actually do that.
Yeah. But you know what? It keeps me active with the camera.
True.
If I didn't, then for the most part, my camera sits dormant until my next Disney trip. I just went out in New Orleans just this past week. I was like, I never shoot my city. And my photographer buddy that taught me how to do everything, he said, if I were to give you one piece of advice, he's like, if you would just approach regular photography with the passion that you approach Disney photography, you probably would do some things with your photography. Like in real life, that would actually do something besides followers. But, everyone wants followers. No, but, so I took his advice and went out and shot in the city, this past weekend, and it was pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
I saw a couple of shots you did from Mardi Gras, I guess. They looked pretty nice.
Yeah, I try to throw them in my stories because, got to keep that cohesiveness. Nobody likes, the Mardi Gras photos or the musician on the street photos. I love them.
I like them.
I do. I appreciate them because I know how difficult they are to get, quite honestly. I take my camera to the parades and it's tough, especially night parades. It's tough with all the people. It's so unpredictable. And so I definitely appreciate the shots that you posted. They're very good. And, so you have a fan for those types of shots too.
I'll send them directly to you.
There you go. Hey.
No, and I think that was another thing about going mirrorless too, was I found myself leaving my camera. Once I got my D850, I found myself leaving my camera at home more often than not, just because I was like, I don't feel like carrying 7 pounds of camera gear, or whatever it was. Whereas I feel like, with the Sony, I think I'll probably take the camera and that camera and just go somewhere with it. I think it'd be more useful. I think I'll get more use out of it.
Cool.
That is cool.
Well, Sean, if people want to know more about you, where should they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Spansel Photo. That's SPANSEL Photo. And same for Twitter. I don't really post too much on Twitter, but you'll find me on Instagram mostly.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, Glenn, did we cover everything? Thank you both, because you guys arranged all this. I just showed up, from my Rockstar limousine and did the show. So thanks for arranging this. This was fun.
No, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's an honor to have you. This went really well, I think. I had a good time. Hopefully our listeners will agree, and
more importantly, that Sean will agree.
So,
I did. I had a blast. It was fun. My first podcast. Thumbs up.
Yeah, maybe we can check in with you once in a while. So, do you have a trip? Do you have a trip coming? I don't know if you announce these things, but do you have one in the future that you have coming up?
I probably will be back in Christmas time for Disney World.
Yeah,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, Christmas. Well, my daughter wants to do Halloween, but I think as a 4-year-old, I think the decision's going to be made by me. But
we'll see.
But I think at Christmas time, I think we'll probably be back for Christmas, or we may do both.
Yeah, why not? That's the answer. Do both.
I mean, I'm paying for annual pass. Might as well just.
Yeah. No kidding, man.
And the rationalization begins. So.
But yeah, no. Next time I'm in town, catch up. We'll say hello.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be awesome. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Chris.
Yep. Thank you all for having me.
Yep. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
This episode is sponsored by ParkLeap. Do you hate waiting in lines for your favorite rides at Disney World, Universal, and Disneyland? Of course you do. Everyone does. ParkLeap tracks current wait times for attractions in real time, analyzes them, and gives you immediate guidance on what to ride now and what to skip for a shorter wait later on. ParkLeap saves you time so you can do more, see more, and ride more. Many theme parks provide their own apps, which is great, but they only report the times. You only get information, you don't get guidance. Is that 40-minute wait good or bad? ParkLeap can tell you. ParkLeap also includes an interface that is clean, quick, and easy to use. Many vacationers travel to multiple theme parks. Now one app does it all. Whether you're a local resident and annual pass holder, or travel great lengths once a year or every few years, you want to make the most of your time and money. This is the app to get to help you do that. Get ParkLeap in the Apple App Store. And thank you to ParkLeap for sponsoring Starport 75. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Starport 75. Follow Chris on Twitter and Instagram at CBGray, and Glenn on Twitter and Instagram at DizWiz. Follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at Starport75 and Instagram at TheStarport75. For all things related to the show, including show notes and links to connect with us, visit us at starport75.com.